Hi, so this is for those wanting to know what I did specifically with my treatment. I had roughly 14 years ago, I was diagnosed with a GBM, that is a glioblastoma, on my right frontal, and it just was all up in here, fairly large. So, what is it, 15, maybe 15, 16 years ago, I was suffering from lots of headaches, and that was from the pressure being built up from the tumor that I had in my skull. So I had lots of headaches. I started getting kind of depressed from it, and et cetera, lots of life. And I was trying to get on antidepressants. I did not think I had brain cancer. Who really does? But anyway, I ended up finally getting an MRI after a bunch of other doctors, everything from a chiropractor to a therapist saying it just didn't add up, the symptoms that I was describing. I believe I started having seizures, but they were grand mals, I think is what it's called, and I was blacking out. So I would just wake up in areas just sore. Um, and eventually, blah, 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 I did my MRI. And as soon as the doctors saw that, they booked me for a brain surgery because they said I had a rather large tumor and thus the buildup with the headaches. So from that, I went through a successful, or was considered a successful brain surgery. I survived it, and some tissue of the cancer was extracted, and left like a kind of a hole, not a hole in my head, but I mean I do have divots from the initial scar, which went here, and there are staples like Frankenstein, kind of funky. I didn't think that was a real thing, and so with that was the treatment. So I got my MRI and I went immediately into a tissue extraction from as much as they could with the brain tumor. But of course, cancer is thus the crab, so it spreads out. So it's not just a core entity. That's what makes I think it's so difficult to treat. And so from there, went from a successful surgery, which was expressed to me in the front end, like if they did well on that, then I was good to go. I came from that successful surgery only to find out that this is just the beginning. Is that it is going to be with chemos, radiation, blah blah blah. There's a lot of stuff that goes with it. So brain surgery was only one of the pieces to it. And then I met the oncologist at that facility, and basically he expressed like I had 3 to 6 months to live, and he seemed pretty burnt out. I was not inspired by him or felt any sense of confidence. So I gladly took on the opportunity to go get a second opinion at MD Anderson in Houston. And as soon as they saw me there, after my initial brain surgery, I had just severe pain, and it felt like I had broken a rib. I was passing blood clots through me, or I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I had blood clots from the brain surgery. And after I met that oncologist, I did not feel comfortable with that. I felt like I would die if I stayed at that place. And so I went and got a second opinion. As soon as they saw me in Texas, they knew I had emboli, and they checked me into the hospital. I met their brain surgeon, and he looked at my MRIs based on my tumor and was very adamant that he could take out more tissue, and that he thought he could get a lot more than the other guy did, the other doctor. And so I signed up for that and went in and had another. They called it a biopsy, but I believe it was more of another brain surgery. I think it actually even took longer than the initial quote brain surgery. And like I said, it was all right frontal lobe. And yeah, from there I relocated over to Houston, and I did radiation coupled with Temodor, which is an oral tablet, and light dosage. And upon completing the radiation protocol, which I don't really focus too much on the dates or the times and stuff, but it was it was, the full treatment. I got to ring the bell at the end of it. I did not complete, as far as I remember, the temozolomide protocol. And when my oncologist saw, he took an MRI right after my radiation treatment, and it was everything I got. It looked worse. It looked more intense. It looked larger, and the doctor was about to do a new protocol, which was a chemotherapy treatment, but it was more the injection kind. It was the injection kind, and it was a chemo, what they called a cocktail, and it was Avastin and CPT-11. He was about to do that protocol, but he wasn't going to do it for like 4 weeks. And he was just like, I just don't think, based on what I see here, I'm not sure you have 4 weeks. And I have a former colleague that's doing the same protocol back in New Orleans or West Bank, where I lived, and over at West Jeff. So I flew back to then immediately get back into that to try that out, and I did, and I completed that. And I'd heard that I was the only one to, because I basically cheated to get through it, because you weren't allowed to get sick, and was very nauseating. Now I hear that it's the CPT-11 that's the nauseating one, and it's the Avastin that's not. Actually, I think the Avastin is supposed to even help you with the treatment. I'm not 100% on that, but that's what I just heard. So anyway, I did, like I said, I completed that Avastin CPT-11 chemotherapy back in, not that it matters, but back in Louisiana. And when I did that, we were doing periodic MRIs, and the MRIs were all looking pretty stagnant. Everything was looking really much the same on my right frontal lobe, and there was no. So basically, the highlights on it tend to look like tumor, like a dead tissue. I'm trying to stutter through this. Scar tissue tends to look like the contrast shows up like a tumor, so it looks very synonymous, the two of them. So he was seeing no changes. They weren't really stoked on drilling back into my head again, which I was cool with. And they were looking at that, and then they saw the same thing. And eventually we did some kind of CAT scan, and it looked at actually the blood flow in the area, and it was getting the tumor area and the round, like, because of the crab thing, was showing no changes, and it was also showing no blood flow. So after a certain period of time and that final CAT thing, he said, I think we're looking at, just dead tissue around where that was. And so that was like 14 years ago. I hear it's very unusual for what I had done. And then I just heard my doc say that he thought, I kind of wrote that down somewhere, but I should have pulled that up. He was kind of saying I had some kind of, where is it? And IDH mutation is what he was theorizing, my new doctor. So basically, I went 14 years just doing MRIs every year. Everything's kind of copacetic, no changes, nothing going on anywhere with tumor and over the original area. So a year ago, they flagged a cloudy kind of area over my around my brainstem, over by my cerebellum, where it kind of connects, I think, which is called the, I should have written that down, but it doesn't matter. It's, the general area, it's brainstem area, which is the congregation of that, a bunch of pieces. It was called like a peduncle, but it was like the cerebella peduncle, something like that, and my cerebellum, which isn't very sensitive area for, of course, surgeries and cutting into. So I was kind of hoping that it was scar tissue. More scar tissue just built up. And coupled with that, I started to get some kind of vertigo, kind of dizziness, kind of missing my step every now and then. And I was kind of hoping that was the inner ear canal thing, because I was thinking I had that, because you can get your crystals kind of jostled. And though it was still starting to look a little bit. Both docs, I had two docs. One was a oncologist, and then the other one was a neurosurgeon, I believe, but his specialty was gamma knife. So they both were kind of telling me the same thing, though there was a little bit of a debate at first as to whether it was actually tumor or not. But and since so then I had then I took so I've been doing like for 10 months or 11 months, or I guess no, it's been like a year now. I was doing temozolomide, a higher dosage of it than what I was previously doing, to try and keep that, I assume, treated or contained, or just trying to shut it down. And like 2 months ago, I kind of just stopped taking the temozolomide. It was like a mix up with me getting the meds, and that was close enough, I figured. And since then, that area over the brainstem flagged up as being a higher contrast. So it looked like it was, flagging up as a tumor would. And as GBM's fours tend to come back as fours, that's something that everybody wanted to address and deal with that immediately in some form. So there was a debate whether to do the gamma knife or the fractionalized radiation therapy, which is what I had done before in MD Anderson, coupled with the temozolomide, which again would be another low dose. So that's what I'm currently under now. Completely different area. Like the other area was right frontal. There's no path on the MRIs of showing tumor or contrast running towards this new site. The docs are now telling me that that's kind of can just happen. That's just how these GBMs flare up. And then I also found out that I had to choose. I was kind of, my methodology with this had always been, I want to do as much as I can now and then do the other stuff afterwards if it doesn't work out. So I could just keep hitting treatment after treatment after treatment. So I was hoping to do either the fractionalized, then the gamma. If I could do both, then let's do it. They're telling me now that it's just too much. You got to pick one or the other. So because of the kind of cloudy area, I opted to do the fractionalized, and it had worked before. And I think the gamma knife is pretty much just going to deal with the one center area. And I figured we'll go for more tissue, hopefully. And then now I'm hearing it's probably going to be, though my radiation oncologist just got back my radiation kind of map of my brain, what previously was radiated. And apparently everybody was really thinking that it was just going to be right frontal because that's where the tumor was. But apparently at MD Anderson, they got a lot more of my complete skull. So actually my brainstem did get amounts of radiation. So that's kind of a concern because you can only handle so much of the radiation. So my doc actually called me and just reviewed that with me to express, well, wait, no, he was actually talking about something else, or maybe he did bring that up. I don't know, I'm forgetting that specific. But anyway, we did talk about it. And I'm kind of thinking we go for it. Got to be in the moment. Now, I mean, that's another thing I practice too. I noticed a lot of stuff prior to me getting diagnosed with a GBM. I had a lot of negative speak. I was lowering, I think, my immune system. I had a lot of, so I really try now to, I mean, this is a little hippy dippy, but I try and get really more into my moment and practice being grateful for the moment. I mean, we're all going to die. And I think that's an okay thing. It doesn't have to be the end of the world as it kind of is, but it's being grateful for what you have right now. And I think that's such a good thing to practice. And everybody clamoring for just more and more time. And I think it's more about, taking a breath and really noticing what you have and what is and being, thankful for it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep working as hard as I can at my health. I don't phrase it as fighting it, cancer, because fighting gets you kind of more of a negative. So I think you practice being asking, even metaphorically, cancer to leave your body, and it's a natural thing in us, cancer, but it's also natural for our immune system to heal oneself and not have it make a home per se in our bodies. So yeah, so my protocol now is just going to be when my doctor figures it out, because like I said, she was going to do it. I was going to do it start tomorrow, or not tomorrow, in 2 days. But now my doc just found out how much radiation that I got, so she's got to refactor out the whole program. And now I'm hearing I would be adding, what made me so nauseous was the CPT-11 when I first did that chemo. And I'm hearing the Avastin is actually more of a positive thing, but I'm not, that's what the doc just told me. So yeah, so that's kind of my little brief history. Well, I guess it wasn't that brief, but that's like what, 16 years or something like that. But anyway, stay positive and really just find joy in the moment. You know, that's all we got. We're all in the same boat with this. And even if you don't got cancer, enjoy. All right. Anyway, I thought this would be easy to type in it. I'll share this with. All right, y'all.